Dads, start things on time. This is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman. I'm here on World Kindness Day. The moderators are in the other room. I got some toys, crafts, and bagels as bribes. On World Kindness Day, we are being extra kind by giving Mrs. Nacho a break from us. We're a lot, the three of us. So I'm so thrilled to be here with my good friend, someone I admire, Dr. D'Angelo Webster. D'Angelo, you can start your video unless I need to do anything to let you start your video. Let me just go right here. D'Angelo is going to be sharing with us his amazing journey. Allow panels to start video. You should be good now. D'Angelo, you can type in if you are not. And there is the awesome Dr. D'Angelo Webster. Welcome to Dental Nachos TV, where we hope to inspire you to do the three things Dental Nachos likes helping dentists and dentisting humans do: increase success, decrease stress, and reduce crying inside. D'Angelo has so many things to share with us. He's also an amazing sponsor and affiliate of Dental Nachos. If you would like to get a Nacho Nuts deal on his DIY Facebook marketing class for new patients, you can do so by texting DAW to 215-798-9897. This discount will expire soon, so if you're watching on demand, it may not be still active, but if you're watching with us on Zoom now, please feel free to text DAW to 215-798-9897 to get a discount on D'Angelo's course. So D'Angelo, we've been on before, but welcome back to Dental Nachos TV. I'll stop sharing a second so people can see us big, but just orient our audience as to where you are, who you are, a little bit of your journey before we launch into the course. While D'Angelo's figuring that out, I'll also share with you that we have $200,000. Feel free to test your sound whenever you want, D'Angelo. I'll talk until then.
Paul, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're all good. Perfect.
Awesome. Audio quality's okay?
Yeah, doing great.
Okay, perfect.
So give us a little bit of where you are, who you are, when you graduated from dental school, a little bit of the D'Angelo bio.
Sure. So my name is Dr. D'Angelo Webster, and I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I graduated in 2016. And I opened a startup practice from scratch in 2017. I actually applied for my startup practice loan while I was still in dental school, and I was pre-approved for that loan when I was still in dental school. And I pretty much hit the ball, or got the ball running right away. I worked as an associate for the first year as my practice was being built and everything was coming together. And as far as like the type of dentistry I do really really dentistry. And I kind of designed my startup practice to be one that could thrive with simple dentistry, because I knew as a dental student at the time, I only knew how to do the basics. So I came up with a business model that let me succeed just doing the basics. When I did open my practice, I was at my office part-time, and then I kept an associate job on the side part-time. But by the time I was at my office full-time, my first year full-time at my office, I took home over $400,000, which is in the higher percentages of what a general dentist is going to make, especially one who doesn't do implants, doesn't do endo, doesn't do ortho, doesn't do Invisalign, doesn't do veneers, nothing. I only do the dentistry we learned in dental school.
What I want to interject in for a second, D'Angelo, is these webinars that we do are to inspire people to learn what's possible. I mean, all of us are looking to do better wherever we are. And what I want to just point out for a second, D'Angelo, is actually, before you did your startup, tell us about your associate journey. I do Dentist Job Connect, dentistjobconnect.com. I strive so hard. Dentist Job Connect is free for seekers, affordable for owners, but we do not have a good system for finding jobs.
No. I'll tell you my story. So I opened my startup practice, with 2017, graduated 2016. I was an associate for the beginning as things were getting set up. And then even when I opened my practice, I was part-time associate and part-time, my own place. So my very first associate job, thought it was going to be great. Like, none of us sign on the dotted line if we don't think it's going to be great. It was horrible. I quit that job after 3 days, despite the fact that I had a contract.
What I find, D'Angelo, I know we're both basketball fans. My the NBA, that failed. Dental offices are teams, and I feel like they hire for teams where sometimes they don't need the position at all. They don't pay the position. I also dropped in the chat the link, your affiliate link to get your DIY Facebook marketing course at a Nacho Nuts discount. If you're here watching with us on Zoom, so many people are, just check in the chat. You can take advantage of that deal from D'Angelo. But what made you quit in 3 days?
So it was just a lot of expectations that didn't align. Okay. The office had plenty of patients to go around. It didn't feel like it was a good place to cultivate a new dentist. So it was like a mini DSO, so not a big, huge corporate. They owned a few offices, a small group of dentists. So the first thing was that they moved my location the day after I agreed to work there. So I was going to work.
I know this story, but just so you know, it's like,
Yeah,
you're a new dentist.
Yeah.
You don't know much, right? You don't know much about the real world, which is normal because you haven't been in the real world.
Yep.
You sign on their dotted line. I don't know if they're signing, but you e-sign. You're supposed to work in office A, and they just said, "Hey, D'Angelo, we're bringing you to office B."
Office B. So office A, where I thought I was going to be, was 20 minutes away, reasonable. Office B, an hour and 45 each direction. When I come home in traffic, it's taken me more than 2 hours to get home. Also, the hours were not what I thought they were going to be. So on the website, it's like 8 to 5, pretty normal. My first day, I think I left at 11 p.m. And I asked the assistant if that was normal, and she said, "Yeah, the latest I've been here is 3 a.m." I left at 11 p.m. The other dentist left at 1 a.m. because the philosophy at that office was you keep the patients until the treatment is done if you can get them to stay. So that's what we did. Also, I was paid a flat rate, $500 a day. So not based on production or anything or hours, just a flat per day, which to me, was okay because I knew I wanted to own my own practice. I was more in it for a good experience than I was for money. It's like, all right, $500 a day, I can make that work if I'm going to have a good experience and I'm going to learn. But when I'm working from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. at night, it's like the more I work, the less I get paid. And I did the math, and I was getting paid like 11% of what I produced. And I called them and I told them I didn't think it was working out. And when I talked to the managing dentist and told him that, I still remember he told me, he said, "Do you know where I am right now, D'Angelo?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm in Florida, surrounded by other successful people. And maybe one day you'll be successful like me." But basically he said I didn't have what it takes.
I mean, that's
then he let me break my contract.
That is a definition of gaslighting real successful people to other people. And I mean, that what your story has inspired me to create Dentist Job Hack and to make it such a thing.
Yeah. So then, Paul, to continue, so I just quit my job 3 days into it. I didn't have a backup plan. And as you know, like when the dental students all graduate, that's like a big influx. And that's like when the jobs get taken, more or less, So I didn't have a plan. I didn't have any other jobs lined up. The heck am I going to do? I don't have Dentist Job Connect. I had never heard of that. I don't even know if it was a thing back then.
It wasn't.
I look at the journals. I look at the journals like ADA and Michigan Dental Association and everything, and there's just not a lot. So I got a resume, dressed up, and I just started driving to dental offices, walking up to the door, introducing myself and hoping for the best. And that ended up working out. I met a guy and he's like, "Hey, I'm not hiring, but my son is." And I ended up associating with him. I had a phenomenal experience. It's a great setting.
We're going to launch into your story, but it's just about good jobs are actually more about morale than money. So a new dentist, if you're watching, thinking I have $600,000 in debt, I have to pay it off all at once. You don't have to do that. But what you do need is a place where you feel good walking in. You don't have to feel perfect walking in. It doesn't have to be your dream job, but it really is demoralizing to me how many problematic associate positions there are. I approve 10 plus posts a day on Dental Nachos saying, "Is this normal?" And the answer is no, it's not normal.
I think it might be normal for dentists.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears, and I want us to we've done a lot of webinars, but let's make this more of the movie that starts now and goes backwards, right? So let's start now and go backwards. So it's 2022, you're 6 years out of dental school. Tell us about your 2022 practice, your 2021 practice. You can tell us about the new patient numbers. You can tell us about your procedure mix. And I want to share, I really admire you for sharing your numbers. I've gotten to know you as a humble person. It's not meant to be braggadocious. It's just meant to be, this is possible to build. So tell us about 2022, Dr. D'Angelo Webster, in your practice.
Yeah, so the story of 2022, I almost can't tell without the story of 2021. So story of 2021, that was my first year being in what I call the 500 club. So dentists who take home more than 500K. And I did that, and that was like something that I thought I was going to feel great about. But I'm like, you know what? That didn't feel much different than when I made a little bit less, or even quite a bit less. But I felt like, the team was kind of stressed out. So for 2022, I revamped things. That number is about the same, but I've got a lot less stress. And I did that by growing my team. I'm actually overstaffed now in a time when a lot of offices were understaffed. I went through some changes with my team, removed some people, added some other people, and I worked on my leadership a lot. As far as the new patient flow, for a period of years, I sustained a new patient flow around 100 new patients a month. I think my actual average was 89 new patients a month. And for 2022, I actually scaled that back. So I reduced my marketing budget, which was at its peak about $500 a month. And now my marketing budget, I still only use Facebook marketing. And that's where still about 70% of my new patients come from. I
want to pause you for a second, D'Angelo, just so whether people are watching on demand or live, you spend $500 a month or less.
Yes.
Your own Facebook marketing ads. Part of this webinar is to share with our audience that they can learn your success tips with this. So new patients, I was doing a lecture the other day. I said, how many new patients does a dental practice want? D'Angelo, trick question, infinity new patients. And we actually know too many new patients can cause problems, but most dentists right now want more new patients, including me.
Yeah.
And more patients for me, D'Angelo, might be 20 to 35. More new, someone else might be 50 to 80. But you're using Facebook marketing to drive this with this ad budget, so it's possible to do. If someone just watched to this point, what would they get out of your course or just learning from you about the power of Facebook for bringing in new patients?
So sure. I mean, Facebook to me is still the #1 best source of bringing new patients into your practice, no matter if you're in a rural area, a city area, really regardless of your demographic. I do think it's the best source of new patients. Mailers, let's be honest, we all get junk mail, we all throw it in the trash. We just do. Okay. Billboards, you drive by them, don't see them. TV, radio, way too expensive. So it comes down to social media because that's where the eyeballs are. That's where people spend their time. And, TikTok's really big right now. But if you look at the average age of a TikTok user, it skews pretty young. People are saying, oh, Facebook, that's phased now. The older people are on Facebook. That's what I want, Paul. I know that the average age of a Facebook user is 46 years old. A 46-year-old is more likely to make a dental appointment than a 21-year-old. 46-year-old is more likely to have a spouse, several kids, parents, other adult friend, community, family members in the community. A 46-year-old is exactly who I want. And right now, that is the social media platform where they're on more than Instagram, more than TikTok. And it's just a great platform to be able to connect with the community and market a small business.
I love that. If you're just catching in, because what's interesting about dentists, D'Angelo, I've run a lot of webinars and CE courses. Dentists want their patients to show up on time, but they think starts of CE courses or webinars or in-person, they're just a friendly suggestion. So if you are here 15 minutes late, I have put in the chat the link to D'Angelo Webster's DIY Facebook marketing course. We have a Nacho deal as an affiliate sponsor that will expire, so I recommend you check it out. D'Angelo is sharing with us how he's a practice owner that's a member of the $500,000 plus a year club, not in a braggadocious way, in a way that you can do this, you can do better than the way you are doing now. You did say something, D'Angelo, that struck me. You said, in 2021, you were earning this, but it was a little too stressful. And in 2022, you hired more people. You were still able to make this type of income. What was causing that stress? What was causing, what did you either not miss, but you said, oh man, I'm making all this money, I'm bringing all these new patients, everything should be good, but it doesn't feel as good as it should. Tell us more.
So a lot of it was, it creates like a bottleneck when you're processing that many new patients for that long. Because there's one dentist, I've got a small 4 practice, and it's just a huge volume of care that comes in. And though I was like, come on, pumped up, let's do this, I've got a very different personality type than the average dental staff employee, who might be like 22-year-old girl as your dental assistant. Going to be very different personality than the typical dentist out there. So I realized that I just needed more support, and I needed to kind of shift around some personalities in the office as well. But one of the big things I did is I hired an office assistant. So not a dental assistant. I hired an office assistant, which is a role I created. And basically the job description of is you're going to be working behind the scenes to make sure everything in this office goes smoothly. You're a support person to me, to the front desk, to the clinical team, where anyone needs help or feels like they're overwhelmed or there's some slack to be picked up. You're the office assistant to help make sure everyone has a nice day. So I hired that position, and that was honestly a big difference maker.
I like to make a lot of jokes. I've said this.
Yeah.
The director of sanity, because that's
The director of sanity. Yes.
I always
Make
say
sure people don't go crazy.
a dental office is like running a circus where the animals don't try to eat each other, just slowly annoy each other to death. And the practice owner's right there with us, right? Because we're all part of it. And it is so difficult to run a daily dental circus that until you do it, you have no idea how stressful it is, whether you're earning $200,000 a year or $2 million a year. I don't know if this makes people feel better or worse, D'Angelo, but people making more money than you and less money than you are having the same amount of daily dental challenges because there's so many things that go off script. I give you props for hiring your director of sanity, your office assistant. I think that's a gem from this. Let's now keep walking. So it's 2021. Bring us back to 2020, 2019 and the pandemic time. I know the pandemic inspired you to make this course, but how did the pandemic affect your practice, affect you personally? Would love to hear about that.
So as far as affecting me personally, I mean, I was worried at first, because we were in a state that really shut things down. I know it was different state by state, as we all know. Some were totally open. We were pretty shut down.
Michigan's your state, right?
Michigan, yeah.
Michigan, if you think of the pandemic and you think of the news, Michigan was mentioned many a time.
We were in the news. Yeah. So all we could do was emergency treatment. So I made a giant banner. It was like a 20-foot banner, and I put it outside my building, and I said open for emergency dental care. And I provided emergency dental care through the pandemic, and that let me still make a profit. That let me still pay my staff, other than the staff that were able to report to work for non-emergency care. So front desk assisting, hygiene was not able to work there for the state regulations. But 2020, I ended up having a business profit pretty much right in line with 2019, even though I worked like 3 months less. So the pandemic really didn't affect me in a negative way in the big picture or even financially that year, because I do basic, simple dentistry that everyone needs. Like perio, you need your SRP, you need a tooth pulled if it hurts, like crack a tooth, need a crown, fillings. Okay, you don't have any teeth, you need a denture. The basic, simple dentistry, it wasn't affected very much.
And I think that you also provided a service to your community too. I'm sure you were, hey, I'm thanks to your process these emergencies before the pandemic. Now once you can kind of tell us these first couple of years after dental school. I have to say, I do think now I know you, but if I met you in 2017 and you Facebook me saying I'm starting my own dental practice 1 year out of dental school, I would say you're pretty nacho nuts, D'Angelo.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people can do that. Kind of take us through those early years and what inspired you to do a startup instead of an acquisition.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you're saying like you think it was crazy if you saw me right out of dental school saying this. I was in dental school saying this, Paul. So my D2 year, I had already picked the name of the practice, designed the logo, and had that finished, and I bought the web domain. D3, my business plan was finished, and I was finalizing what locations I was considering. D4, I had everything submitted to the bank and had it approved. I was ready to go. And the first question is, one of the biggest challenges was getting financing from the banks. The first question is, you want to open a dental practice? Okay, you a dentist? No, not yet. The second question is, do you have business experience? And again, it was no. So there was a lot of hurdles to overcome there. But once I did get things going, I was profitable very early. So a lot of times in the Facebook groups with startups, they'll say, how long did it take you to become profitable? In 6 months, a year, 2 months. I was profitable from the first month. My first month in my startup, which I was working part-time, 2.5 days a week, I took home more money during those 2.5 days, my first month, than I made when I worked full-time as an associate. Wow. And it was because a big part of that was because my overhead was low. So I kept my fixed costs very low. And the example that I give, I mean, what production a mature dental office will have. I realized that when I was working there part-time, I was doing the math. I'm like, okay, I'm producing $40,000 a month, which is not a ton for a dental practice, Paul, but I'm keeping 25 of the 40. That's 300. That's 300 a year.
What
That's
people are
really
watching,
easy.
if people are inspired but also worried or annoyed, say, what is some of your, if we just had sort of some of your overhead success tips? I mean, if you could tell us some general ones. I actually want to look to bring up your course and website while I'm doing it. So you take a few minutes and kind of tell people, hey, these are overhead reduction tips. These are ways to be profitable earlier from my life, directly from my life.
Directly from my life, sure. So something that I always say is that the biggest variables to overhead happen before you ever treat a single patient. Once you've treated patients, it's harder, meaning the big decisions are before you open practice, which comes down to your fixed overhead. How much is your rent going to be? That's a big cost. It's never going to go down. How much is your mortgage if you're buying the location? It's a big cost, and it's going to be a big cost for a long time. How much is your practice loan? Is your practice loan $700,000 and you have a huge payment to make every month? Or is your practice loan $50,000 or $80,000 and it's much more manageable? And if you add up these monthly payments, I mean, you're talking 6 figures a year sometimes where you can have some give. So being able to identify ways to minimize those fixed ones are by far the biggest changes. If you're already in an existing practice and you want to reduce overhead, you can. It is more challenging, and it's you won't have as big of a swing. So let's say you want to really reduce your supply budget. Well, a typical office maybe spends 5% on supplies. Even if you cut that in half to 2.5, you're talking 2.5% savings, which is nice. Something else that can really reduce overhead in an existing practice is restructuring of hours and restructuring of scheduling. So if you can find a way to reduce, if you're just talking overhead specifically, to reduce the hours that you're open. So maybe if you are working 5 days a week and you can condense that to 3 days a week, well, your biggest cost is payroll. Now your payroll's gone from 5 days of payroll to 3 days of payroll. And now maybe you're working a little harder, a little more, but then you get this long break at the end of the week. Your staff, maybe they are moms and they want more time with their kids anyway. And they say, hey, going from 5 days a week to 3 days a week wouldn't be bad. So you're reducing your biggest cost of payroll from 5 days to 3 days. And that can make a huge dent in your overhead. And if you can still do the same amount of dentistry with more efficient scheduling, your top line will stay the same, but your bottom line can get much bigger. And I've seen dentists actually, once they realize they can be more efficient, go from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days and end up producing more.
I love those. And, I know, as we said before, we're both big basketball fans. So I do think of overhead like defense, and defense is very important. But sometimes I think dentists overvalue defense and think I have to save more on cotton rolls. I have to save more on this, when it's really about offense and scoring more points. And producing more really helps with your overhead. You went to over $900,000 a year at this 45% overhead. And it seems that the new patient flow is incredibly important to this.
Yeah.
The course that you teach about this new patient flow is incredibly important. Tell our audience just, even if it's pretty fundamental, why new patients are so important to your success.
Yeah, so new patients are important to the success for me. I mean, it's pretty basic because in dentistry, the revenue from your practice comes from providing care for people. And the more people that you can provide care for, the bigger source of revenue there's going to be. In our practice, we never think about, okay, this is the average financial value of a patient. In our practice, we actually don't have any production goals of any kind. We have had new patient goals. So in my office, we never say, if we produce $80,000 or $100,000 this month, we're going to have a reward. But we might say if we get 110 new patients this month, we'll have an award. And if those 110 new patients have a great experience and leave us nice reviews, then for that, maybe we'll have a reward. So we think about things.
I just want to remind everybody, maybe you're a fan of the Golden State Warriors. I mean, I'm a Sixer fan deep down, but Steph Curry can make 10 threes for 30 points, but you also can put in 15 shots around the basket. You are saying you are not doing hybrid overdentures. You're not doing
rehab. Free throws and layups, Paul.
Yeah. What are your procedures? I mean, I know dentists love details. I also want to share so many people.
Absolutely. So in my practice, I don't do any dentistry that I did not learn in dental school. I do fillings, crown and bridge, usually single crown, dentures, RPDs, SRP. I usually do the SRP myself. And that's it. I used to do single rooted endo, but I don't even do that anymore, honestly, because my schedule is so full that, usually when they need endo, they're in pain and they don't want to wait 2 months for me to do it. So I refer them out to the endodontist. They get seen in a couple days and then I do the crown.
Good.
Really, really easy stuff, Paul. I mean, I don't even feel like I'm working half the time.
You and I trade. I love our relationship and chatting about so many different things. And I know you like podcasts. I mean, Entrepreneurs on Fire is one of my favorite podcasts. They're about 25 minutes long. John Lee Dumas, and he always talks about riches are in niches. And, even though this doesn't seem like a niche because it's general dentistry, you have made a very niche-like practice.
Oh, yeah.
People think of niche-like practice, they think, I only do veneers, I only do Invisalign.
No, I have a niche of simple dentistry.
Yeah.
Like like if they come in and they say, oh yeah, down the street, they wanted to do all of this crazy stuff, but I just come on in. We'll just do the filling. Yeah, we'll do the filling and then I'll give you a referral to the prosthodontist. You guys.
Right. I mean, and that's why you're being a reasonable and responsible dentist. I say this all the time. You don't have to be everything to everybody. And the way the world is going, people hold you accountable in 2022 way more than they held my dad accountable in 1982 for having to know things. So it becomes more challenging to deliver anything to anybody, let alone dental patients. In your course here, I know dentists love manuals. You have this course, we'll kind of show a few things about your new patients, but what does the companion manual do? If you purchase this, what do they get in this companion manual for your course?
Absolutely. So behind me right here, I've got like the printed out and bound companion manual. It's about 40 pages. So Paul, I used to teach this class live, which I started doing around the time of the pandemic because everyone was home. I taught it live on Zoom to groups of dentists, and I've taught it to like several hundred dentists at this point live. But they didn't get a recording and they didn't get anything to leave with after. And they'd always contact me with questions after, like, hey, can you remind me how this worked? Can you remind me how that? So I decided that when I packaged it into an at-home study course where you could watch the recording of the last class that I taught live, I also wanted to have a manual. So everyone learns differently too, right? Some are audio visual, some learn by reading. So I created the manual for just a quick reference. You can say, all right, how did that work again? Let me flip to page 10. Oh yeah, I need to do A, B, C. That's how I set up my ad. Here's a picture of a good ad. Here's a picture of a bad ad. I have all of this in front of me, so I know how to make it work. And I made it in like a nice little booklet with color photos and examples. And you can read it as an ebook or you can print it out like I did.
We become friends. We collaborate business-wise. We are totally a Nacho affiliate and sponsor of this course. You can get the best price possible by texting DAW to 215-798-9897. If you forget that, just reach out to me on Facebook. Also, D'Angelo, people just go into the course on practice biopsy. They can use what code?
Yep. So if they go to practicebiopsy.com, you'll see a link to the DIY Facebook marketing class right in the menu on the website. And we go to checkout, just type nachos as the discount code.
That's my whole goal, D'Angelo. Money, blah, fame, blah. I just want everything to be named after nachos.
Just name everything nachos.
And I have to say, I like to taste test stuff when I can, especially when it's learning. So I actually was walking Tilly from Philly through Philadelphia. I listened to about 40 minutes of this course. It's so easy to use. I mean, basically we just play it from here and you're learning. Is that basically as easy as it is to consume this info?
It's as easy as that. I mean, and I know that some people who have taken the class, they don't even watch it. They just go for a walk, put on their headphones, listen to it, and then they've got the manual if they need to see any visual aids later.
I think actually, D'Angelo, and as I do, we both do many things. I do lots of visual C, so I'm not saying can't, but I tell people, listen to my Nacho On Demand C in the car going to work. And people have said, when you need to see something, go back and see it. But Gary Vee talks about the future is in people's ear, right? And not dentistry, just like what's in your ear you're listening to, whether it's buying groceries, things like that. And I think visual learning can get exhausting, but it's easy to learn while you're on the treadmill, while you're walking your dog, while you're driving to work. And for our dental friends, you also can get CE credit for this.
Yep. So it's worth 2 CE credits. When you take the quiz, you'll get your 2 CE credits, which we all need CE anyway. So.
And what's the list price of this course right now?
The list price is $285 and you get 2 CE credits.
And for knowing me, my grandmother says, very lucky to, my grandma, if she was alive, would say, you're very lucky to know my grandson, Paul, because you know me through Dental Nachos. How much do they save on this?
So with the nachos discount, I would take it down to $249.
Awesome. So you guys can save, get this. And I was, I will share, I don't know if I'm going to DIY my own Facebook ads tomorrow, but just by listening to it, I started to understand how to market better in general. Some of the things I'd heard before, D'Angelo, some were reinforcement new. If we just pull back for a second and just talk about marketing in general, knowing your ad, knowing your customer, give us just like a little snippet of your thoughts on that, like who target, why you should target them.
So like a general principle of marketing that can be applied from this to anything is the idea of what are we marketing? Okay. A lot of dentists think we're marketing dentistry, which is why you see the ads with the fake smiling people, $19.99 free cleaning, free tooth whitening, $99 first visit for a checkup, x-rays, whatever. We're marketing dentistry. And those are pretty much red flags when I see those, that the marketing's probably not going well. And you're probably like paying a company to do this for you, and it's costing a lot of money, and maybe you're getting a lot of patients, but you're probably not getting a lot of patients. Because we're marketing dentistry. As much as we love dentistry, Paul, the average person doesn't love dentistry. They don't like going to the dentist. They openly will say they hate the dentist. So they don't want to see our picture of a toothbrush on Facebook. They don't want to see like our dental joke. That's not why they're on social media. That's not where they're thinking about when they walk around. So one of the first tips that I recommend to people, and one of the hallmarks for my own marketing, is that I don't market dentistry. The less that I'm marketing dentistry and talking about dentistry, the better. Yeah. And I'm marketing my brand. So the brand is what you want to market. And the brand is the concept that people think about when they hear the name of your business or your practice or yourself. And I like to give well-known examples to make the connection. So what is the brand? What could be the brand of Harvard? Is the brand of Harvard pencils and textbooks and paper and tests? No, the brand of Harvard is the people who go here are very smart and high achieving. That's what you want to be associated with. That's the message they put out that makes you want to send your kids to Harvard. What's the brand of Apple? The brand of Apple is not, we have phones. The brand of Apple is, we have beautiful products, powerful technology that's easy to use.
And what's interesting about Apple, I mean, and I'm an iPhone fan. Yeah. I'm embarrassed this one is broken. I'm waiting for a new one. But I mean, Apple is not even the best technology, right? I mean, there's better technology.
It's beautiful, powerful, and easy to use.
Yeah. And that's why, I know you work out a lot, you're a trainer, and I always joke with trainers, it'd be like, your words are too technical. They'll be like, tighten your epiglottis, relax your spleen. Like dentists saying mesial and distal. And, I know you're into stretching, and a trainer would be like, hey, you got to stretch so you have the most flexible piriformis muscle. No, you got to stretch so you can play with your kids when you're 50, right? And too often we talk more about these technical things than the impact we have on patients. Tell us about, you've told me before, people see you in the store, they're not even your patient, and what do they say?
So I knew I was onto something when, like, as dentists, we've all been out in the store and they say, hey, Dr. Goodman, I'm your patient, remember me? We've all been in those situations. But I started to find myself in the situation where I was being recognized by people who were not my patients and had never been in my office. I'd be in the hardware store, or the grocery store, or the post office, and they say, hey, aren't you the dentist? So yes, I am the dentist. Thank you. Have a nice day. So they were just recognizing me as the dentist in the community, having never been to my office, just because of the presence that I had built in the community online.
If dental students are watching, or new dentists, being able to do that is just so phenomenal, to be known as someone who's a dentist in their community. People barely know their own dentist sometimes. I'll say that was your aha moment.
That was my aha moment.
Looking for sponsorship from AHA. I drink so much of them. We'll spend about another 10 minutes with you. There's a question in the chat I want to answer. I don't want to keep too long. I want to remind some people a few things. But this question in the chat is, do you have a hygienist, and how long are your hygiene appointments?
I have 3 hygienists. They do not all work the same day. So usually I have 1 hygienist per day, and some days we'll do double hygiene where we have 2. But I have 3 hygienists on my team, and they all get 1 hour for their appointments. If they have a difficult SRP, it might go to 90 minutes, but just for a recall prophy, it'll be 60 minutes. And if they see a child, it'll be 30 minutes.
Awesome. That's a good breakdown there. More, and we'll spend 10 more minutes. I'm going to ask D'Angelo some lightning round ones
Oh,
on a
yeah.
variety of things. D'Angelo, if you were looking for a job, Dentist Job Connect segments out jobs that pay over $200,000 a year. I think we have 43 of these jobs. If you'd like to see the list of them, text 200K to 215-798-9897. Take yourself back into the shoes of a dental student or GPR grad. They said, hey, D'Angelo, I'm going to open up a practice in 2 years or buy one, but we'll go with your route. It's your show. Open them up. What would you do in those 2 years for work experience? What are some things you would look to get at? Would you go DSO, private practice, more than one job? Totally your creative space to share.
I would find a setting where you feel safe to learn and practice the type of dentistry that you want to do when you're on your own.
I like that. That's really key. If everyone's listening, this is like, and I'm going to do a lot of speaker training, and it's not too complicated. Think of vary your tone of voice when things are really important. We do this with our kids when we say, hey, stop doing that, and they pay attention. So this is a really important question to ask on every job interview. And here's the question. I'm the person interviewing. D'Angelo is the dentist. Hey, Dr. D'Angelo, this seems like a really good practice. I could see myself working here. Can I ask you this? How often will I be the only dentist in the practice working? How often will I be the only dentist in the practice working? And if you hear 100% of the time or 75% of the time, it's really challenging to grow when there's not another dentist on site to provide mentorship to you. I think you even noted, D'Angelo, what was so great about that mentor you had for even just that 6-month time period before you bought a practice?
With the practice that I was working in, where I had the very good experience, the owner dentist actually did not work in that office. He was an absentee owner, but there was another associate dentist who was in there with me most days, not all days, maybe half the time. But the other associate dentist was a great mentor because that dentist, she was actually a faculty member at the dental school that I went to. So she was literally my teacher, and she's right there with me if I needed anything.
You
It was
probably
also
now, D'Angelo, but you probably weren't able to even emotionally realize that when you stepped foot through the practice and she was there, your blood pressure was different, your pulse was different, because you just said, I know I could walk over here and just say to this person, this isn't going as well as I had hoped. Could you share with me something?
Yeah.
This person said this, and that's why I'm really glad it doesn't have to be the practice owner with you every day, but another dentist on site is key.
Yeah. And and just on the flip side, the practice owner was never there. They never worked in that location. And part of me really liked that because it gave me a little bit of the experience of having autonomy and like leadership training wheels. So the owner is not here. So like I'm the dentist, I'm kind of in charge, I guess. It's not my practice, but the owner's not here. So it was leadership training wheels. I got to be a leader in a practice, have a leadership role, even though it wasn't my practice. So I got to learn that as well. And that was beneficial to me, I felt.
Awesome. We're going to go next question. How did you research your location? How much is location part of the success for a startup practice owner?
Oh, I spend a lot of time researching my location. So in dental school, you're in the lecture hall and everyone's on their computer, like taking notes. I usually was researching practice locations. So I spent like months doing research, and I did all this while I was in school. And it's very important. And I'll go over the two big blocks of information with location selection. So the big thing people look at is they do demographics. They do a demographic analysis, but they look at dentist to population ratio, income, growth of the population in the area, age, race, religion of the area, all these big things of demographics. And usually that's where the search ends. But there's another really big piece of that location selection, which is called a competition analysis or competitive analysis, which not as many dentists do. So when you do the competition analysis, you're saying, okay, there's 10 other dentists on this block, but what are these dentists like? What are their practices like? What are their hours like? What do they provide or not provide? And with my skill set, personality, and what I bring to the table, do I have something to offer to the community? Do I have a way to be competitive with these other dentists to meet a need that is not yet being filled? So you could have 10 dentists that are really cutting edge, really competitive, spend lots on marketing. You could have 10 dentists who work a day a week and have their feet up and, drink their coffee in the morning and see a couple patients a day. So you really have to know this. When I had narrowed it down to 2 cities, like I was either going to go to city A or B, I went to every dental office and tried to meet the dentist so I could really see.
That
where
is,
I could
I'm
have
gonna
a
also,
competitive
that is
advantage.
gold. There's so many, someone did this 3 years ago. If you want to get a job, buy a practice, be successful in life, do something that's not Jordan that D'Angelo did. He did it both in finding his associateship and startup location. Go to dental offices, bring cookies, bring fruit, bring something and say, hi, my name is Dr. Paul Goodman. I would love to learn what dentistry is like in this area. I would love to take the practice owner to lunch. If you do that 27, 34, 82 times, you will be amazingly successful. Magic will happen. The practice owner likely won't make you pay for lunch. Some will never call you back. But if you walked into my office and you did that, my team would know somebody is here to learn from you, Paul, and set us up together. So that is such amazing advice that very few people take. One of the things also, D'Angelo, I hear you saying is in dental school, you started paying attention to your life before you left dental school. Do you think some dental students worry too much about passing Krebs cycles tests and not enough about what happens after the first day of graduation?
Yeah, it's really big. I think it's a really big issue. I think they don't really think about their life as a dentist. Like they get kind of caught up in passing the next test. But I tell dental students when I talk to them, treat the 4 years of dental school as your 4 years of time to prepare to have a successful life.
I love that. I say, when should you start looking for a job? First day of dental school. When should you start applying? 12 months before you finish your GPR dental school experience. I put this on Not Just Today, and a bunch of older dentists said, that's too early, Paul. They don't have the time. They have to worry more about dental school. And I say, no, it's the opposite. That great test on how the kidney works will not help you pay your loans. Start looking and connecting with people. The first day of dental school, start applying 12 months before. When people say you have to worry more about dental school, sadly, many of these things do not help you in any way. Doesn't mean fail out of dental school, doesn't mean not get good grades. It just means do both.
Yeah.
Next, Angelo, how many new patients do you think a practice needs to be successful?
Depends on your practice model. If you're doing like simple basic dentistry fillings, the stuff you learn in dental school, you need more. But if you're doing like big $100,000 cases, which I know dentists who do, you need very few. You can see a couple patients a week, but I can give you, ballpark averages. So the averages are, if a practice is getting between 0 and 15 new patients a month, it's in the slowing down phase or lack of growth phase. If it's 15 to 25 new patients a month, it's in the equalization phase where things will stay pretty level. If you get more than 25 new patients a month, it's in the growth phase, just as average numbers.
Yeah, I think that's a great way. But I also shared a few things in the chat for you watching and people listening. If you text IDEAL to 215-798-9897, we do have a startup location book that is $1.99 from our sponsor. Whether you utilize their services or not, that book will help you with figuring out a location, what to think about. And also, since it is World Kindness Day, I promised if you text GIFT, the word GIFT to 215-798-9897, we'll send you back a $200 Nacho CE code to get whatever type of CE you would like on our site. Just a couple more questions here, D'Angelo. What's your weekly schedule like? How much is dedicated to dentistry and how much is for practice biopsy and other non-dentistry dental clinical businesses?
Currently, I'm open 32 clinical hours per week. That will soon change to 31 clinical hours per week. And then we finish up on Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we're done at noon. And then I block out a couple hours, 2-3 hours on Tuesday afternoons to do administrative work for the practice. As far as practice biopsy time, that just kind of fits in as part of my leisure time. I mean, where some people might like go play golf, I like make practice biopsy videos because it's a hobby. So it's just my hobby time.
And someone asked, how do you start building a brand? I would go into the chat, click on the affiliate link, totally a sponsor of the group, and get D'Angelo's course and listen to it for 2 hours. You're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into your dental school education. One of the things I will share, D'Angelo, it doesn't mean I hate dental school. Dental school is a tough job, but what they charge for what they deliver is very mismatched. But these courses for $250, $50, $2,000 that are outside of dental school, I think the value is also mismatched the other way, that many of these things are delivering these secrets to business, personal and professional success. But if you were going to just give a free tip on how to start building your brand to this person in the Zoom webinar, what would you say to them?
sit down and decide what you want your brand to be. So before you're building your brand, decide what you want it to be, which means you're going to sit down and say, when people hear the name of my practice, I want them to think. Do you want them to think that for my practice, it's the brand of my practice is it's the place where everyone's friendly and it's the place where they're really friendly and everyone wants to go. So every piece of marketing we push out communicates the message. They're really friendly and that's where everyone wants to go. The brand of your practice might be, that's the practice that's very affordable. So if you're worried about money, this is the place to go. They're really cheap. Your brand might be, this is the highest quality dental office in the area. Your brand might be, we have the best technology of any dentist in the area. And most dentists, they don't even think about it. And that makes it very hard to market, because if you're marketing without a brand, you're just kind of throwing random things out there hoping that it works. The brand is like the centerpiece of which all successful marketing is going to revolve around.
Awesome. How did you create that circle of specialists that you refer to?
Oh yeah, I love my circle of specialists. One of them in particular, my prosthodontist I refer to, I knew him from school. He was an instructor, so I refer to him. And then the other ones, I just kind of Google mapped specialists in the area, and I started calling them or sending out emails and saying, hey, I'm a new dentist in the area. Can I meet you? And can I learn a little bit about your practice? And now the specialists I refer to, I mean, I just text them, I text them before they get the referral slip or anything, and or Facebook chat, and I send them a screenshot like, hey, here's a tooth. They're on their way to you. Or I'll say, hey, is there any advice you can give me on this? I could use a little guidance so I can handle this case better.
I love that. I mean, having a network of specialists to help you in so many ways, from business to patient management to bailouts, is so key. These are going to be our last two for D'Angelo. I will share in a future webinar. We'll talk about how much D'Angelo loves insurance and how much D'Angelo, I have a good thing for this. In a future webinar, we'll talk about why D'Angelo thinks you are a smarty for working with insurance. And I think it can sometimes be toxic waste. So that's but I have a great series of videos for free. If you text insurance at 215-798-9897, I will text you videos on how to explain insurance to patients, something you have to be able to do, whether you're in network 57 plans or totally fee for service. How much time do you offer for the new patient exam? Do you have certain time blocks, or do you do this in the hygiene schedule for all these 80 new patients?
Typically, so my practice is a little bit unique on this. So it's going to be typically, I mean, there's times where the schedule is different. Like if my hygienist has an opening and I don't, and someone calls in, wants to come in the same day, we'll make it happen. But typically, they have a 1 hour visit, but it's not a doctor driven appointment, nor is it a hygienist driven appointment. And what we do is we have an assistant driven new patient experience. Okay. So a lot of dentists think that like, oh, to build rapport with me, they need all this time with me, the doctor, because I'm the best. The way I see it is they're going to have an hour in our office and they're going to be exposed to many members of our team. And we're all going to have an opportunity to build rapport with them. So the first moment of building rapport is with our front desk team. And when they're talking with them and they're talking them through any questions they may have on the paperwork, building rapport, building rapport, building rapport. Then the assistant's going to bring them back. The assistant's going to chat with them, get to know them, learn some key facts about them, put it in the notes. Again, more rapport building. The assistant's going to talk with them, see what their chief concern is, take a look at their teeth to get a general feel, and then let me know so I'm prepared when I go in there. And then I'll go in, do a quick brief exam and a quick meet and greet. Hi, I'm Dr. Webster. What brings you in? Rapport building, rapport building, rapport building. Take a look at the teeth and take some quick notes, and then instruct the assistants which x-rays that would be best for this new patient.
I'll share with you, so whether you're a fancy and or schmancy fee-for-service practice, whether you see 58 patients a day, whether you're in the middle, patients really appreciate being seen for anything. And if you just get your mind around, let's get this person seen and evaluate what's going on, you're likely not going to extract a number 32 broken off at the gum line due to decay in the middle of your day, but that patient can be an enormous fan of you for just getting them to the right person to help them. So I think often dentists don't see this because they're very literal in this. I can't fit this into my day. The last question I asked before we do our conclusion, D'Angelo, I'm going to go grab the moderators. How did you learn? Where would you direct someone to learn about the business aspect of dentistry while they're in dental school or new dentist? What are some toppings you would suggest?
Sure. So just like a selfless plug, I felt like the resources were not great. So I do have an instructional course to teach the business side of dentistry. It's on practicebiopsy.com. You'll see it in the menu bar. But what did I do to learn the business side while I was in dental school? I did a lot. I did a lot of prep while I was in dental school. And the big things include, we had a great business school on campus. So sometimes I would step away from our dental classes and I'd go to the business school auditorium and I would just sit in and listen to the speaker for that day. I would also read books. This is my library. These are pretty much all business books. And in dental school, I was reading on average, probably a book a week. I was outlining it and taking notes. And then we've got the moderators. And something else that I did, which is probably the most important, is I did this project during dental school. And when you're doing things in dental school as a project, you get more help because you're a student, you're doing a project. So what I did is I went to dentists, probably about 24 dentists all over the local area in Michigan. And I interviewed them and I toured their practice. I toured their practice and studied how things were set up, what equipment would I need, office flow, and I looked at their numbers and I reviewed all of their numbers and production and procedure breakdown and saw what worked, what didn't. I interviewed them about what worked, what didn't. And I made this big portfolio and I laid out all the trends. And then basically I made my own dentistry business curriculum and organized all the information into something useful. And that was my guidebook to everything. And I still use what I learned from that now.
I love that, D'Angelo. I want to say one thing to wrap up, but I do want to share, and I haven't even told you about this yet. Dr. Lincoln Harris from Australia came to Philly this week, and he has created a training program for dentists clinically that they can do for 2 years through WebEx. If you'd like to learn about his restorative training program, just text right to 215-798-9897. I want to introduce him to you. And if you would like to get the DIY Facebook marketing to get new patients, text DAW to 215-798-9897. But before we wrap up, one of the moderators left. D'Angelo and I are both dads. And even though we could potentially make money from this webinar, we took an hour out of our Sunday to share with you guys. And all I would like to ask for you is to put one thing in the chat before you leave. What's one thing you learned from this? What's one thing you are going to take away? And this is the guy who gets all the new patients, staff. And I said, to get all these new patients, to live your best dental life, to earn as much as you can earn, reduce overhead. What do you have to do, Daphne? Believe. You just have to believe.
Yeah.
So, D'Angelo, thanks for being you. This was truly awesome. We'll keep doing this fun stuff together. Love to be partnering with you on this. Everyone who watched in, before you leave, I would love if you guys just put in the chat, what's one thing you took away from this? What's one thing you learned? If you can't put in the chat, you put in the Q&A. Thanks, D'Angelo. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Paul. Have a great Sunday.